Okay, so number 2, you can either do it by hand, and I mean, it's super quick to do by hand as long as you know the rule for it. If you don't, you can do it in the calculator. So we would need to pull up, let me show you something. Remember yesterday how I showed you you can copy and paste? So if I go up to this previous one and hit enter, it pastes it, and now I can just go in here and change the elements to number 2's elements, which were 1, 7, 2, and 3. And that'll save you a little bit of time. And you get negative 11, which is what you would have got by hand, because 1 times 3 is 3, 7 times 2 is 14, 3 minus 14 is negative 11. Okay, now number 3, we're not going to learn it by hand. We're just going to do it in the calculator. So I won't be able to just copy and paste because this is now a 3 by 3. So I have to go second, matrix, math, and then determinant. And now I need to set up a 3 by 3. So alpha, zoom, and then you just enter those 9 elements. So 3, 6, 7. Then negative 1, 5, 4. And then the last row is 2, 2, 1. And so the determinant is negative 39. Okay, you go and try number 4 by yourself. Get for the determinant of number 4. 66 is correct. Okay, we're going to save these for later, because now we're going to go back some pages. Let's see. Go back to page 15. Now we're going to learn how to do the inverse of a matrix. Okay, so please don't be finishing those determinant ones right now, because then you'll be lost when it comes to inverses. Alright, your calculator will do the inverse for you as well. However, I'm at least going to show you with 2 of them what is going on. Like, I don't want to just show you how to plug in a calculator and you have no clue how they got the answer that it spits out. Okay, so I'm going to start with number 2 and you'll know why in a minute. Alright, the formula for the inverse of a matrix is you have to do 1 over the determinant, and then you're going to multiply that by what I call the crazy matrix. It might have a real name, but I've never heard of its name. In the crazy matrix, you basically take A and D and flip-flop them. You take B and C and leave them where they were, but you change their sign. So if they were positive, they go negative. If they were negative, they go positive. Okay, this is how you do the inverse by hand. Okay, so let's look at number 2. Obviously, to do it by hand, we first need to know the determinant, because we're going to put 1 over the determinant. So let's quickly do the determinant by hand. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, minus 1 times negative 6 is negative 6, and so what ends up happening there? Right, you add it, because 2 negatives become a positive, and negative 2 plus 6 is 4. Now I'm going to multiply that by the crazy matrix, which is where I flip-flop A and D, so negative 2 and 1 switch places. B and C remain the same location, but like that 1 becomes negative, that 6 becomes positive. Now you just multiply the scalar of 1/4 times this matrix. So like 1/4 times 1 is 1/4. 1/4 times negative 1 is negative 1/4. 1/4 times 6 is 6 over 4, which will reduce to 3 over 2. And 1/4 times negative 2 is negative 2 over 4, which will reduce to negative 1/2. And that is the inverse matrix of this original matrix. The determinant was 4. And that's the first thing you would have to know to be able to do this by hand, because you have to do 1 divided by the determinant, and then that becomes your scalar that you multiply by the crazy matrix. Okay, so now let's try this one by hand. What's the first thing you have to find when you do it by hand? The determinant. So, because we're going to put 1 over the determinant. Well, negative 9 times negative 2 is 18. And then minus negative 9 times negative 2 is, so what's the determinant? 0. So you're not going to be able to find, this is going to have no inverse because the determinant is 0. You can never divide by 0. It's undefined. So this one has no inverse. Now let me show you on the calculator how to do this. Okay, the first thing you'll do is type in the original matrix. So that's a 2 by 2. So I'm going to do alpha, zoom, set it up for a 2 by 2. And then the elements are -9, -9, -2, and -2. And now, to do the inverse in the calculator, it's very simple. See this button over here that says x to the -1? Okay, that's the notation for inverse. You just press it, it'll raise it to the -1, and then you just hit enter, and we got an error, singular matrix. And why do you think we got an error? Because there's no inverse, because the determinant of the matrix was 0. So now let's try this one over here that we've already done by hand. So if I hit second quit, it'll just take me out back to the screen. So now I'm going to copy and paste instead of retyping a whole new one in. So when I get in there, this number should now be a positive 1. This number should be a -6. This number is now positive 1. If you type over that, you just got to be really careful that you don't leave anything there from before, like a sign. Okay, and then the last one is -2. And then always go and check it. -2, positive 1, -6, positive 1. And now it's already got the inverse thing in there. Hit enter. Now, it looks a little different than my answer when I did it by hand because I left mine as fractions, and this is decimals. Remember, you can change that on your calculator. If you hit math, and then fraction, and then enter once more. Now doesn't it look exactly like mine? Okay, so you can do it either way. You can do it by hand or you can do it with the calculator. Yes? Number 3, this is how it should look when you type it in. That's the answer it will give you, but I would prefer to change that to a fraction. I mean, you could have rounded it off to the tenths or the hundredths. It wouldn't have been that bad. Or you could write them all as fractions. So -2/7, -5/21, -3/7, and -4/21. Okay, that's the answer for number 3. Number 4, have y'all done it yet?
No.
Why is it no inverse? Right, because when you do the determinant, you get a 0 because it ends up being 0 minus 0. Okay, for the remainder of class, I want you working on the rest of this page, all of the next page, and then 21. Finish 21. The first person who can come to me with a correct answer for number 18 will get candy. Okay, so if you want to go and try 18, the first person with an answer that works will get candy.